Ethan Reynolds was used to stretching every dollar until it nearly tore. Once, years ago, he had been an architect with steady paychecks, big dreams, and a wife who believed in him. But life had a way of twisting plans into something unrecognizable. His wife, Emma, had gotten sick, and in just a few years, Ethan had drained everything: savings, retirement funds, and even their dream house, trying to keep her alive. When she passed, it felt like the light in his life had been blown out, leaving him in the dark with their daughter, Lily. Lily was 6 now, with messy curls and a smile that looked too much like her mother's. She was the reason Ethan got up every morning, the reason he endured long shifts at the hardware store, the reason he swallowed his pride when he had to fix neighbors' broken furniture for a few spare bills. He often went without so she could have what she needed, never mind what he wanted. That evening, the air was sharp with the bite of autumn. Ethan was carrying grocery bags filled with discounted bread and dented cans when he noticed someone on the porch steps of the run-down rental next door. The figure was hunched, hugging a backpack like it was a shield. At first, Ethan thought it was one of the neighborhood teenagers waiting for a ride, but when he got closer, he saw a young woman, maybe 20 or 21, with tangled hair and sneakers that had clearly seen better days. Her jeans were worn thin at the knees, and she shivered in her thin hoodie. He hesitated. He didn't want to scare her. But something about the way she stared at the ground, like she was fighting tears, tugged at him. "Hey," he said gently. The girl jerked her head up, startled. Her eyes were wide and alert, but he saw the exhaustion beneath them, the kind you couldn't fake. "You okay there?" I'm fine," she said quickly, but her voice wavered. "I just don't have anywhere to go tonight." Ethan felt the weight of her words like a stone in his chest. He knew what it meant to feel cornered, with nowhere to turn. He also knew he barely made enough for himself and Lily. Still, he couldn't just walk past. "Look," he said, shifting the bags in his hands. "It's not much, but we've got a couch. And my daughter makes the best hot cocoa you'll ever taste. If you need a warm place tonight, you're welcome." Her lips parted in disbelief. "You'd really let me?" "Yeah," Ethan nodded. "It's not fancy, but it's safe." Her eyes glistened, and for a moment she looked like she might cry. Instead, she stood, clutching her backpack, and whispered, "Thank you." Inside, Lily was already bouncing around the small living room when Ethan brought the girl in. "Daddy, who's this?" she asked, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit. "This is Maya," the girl said softly, introducing herself. "Just for tonight." Lily grinned. "Hi, Maya, do you like hot cocoa? Daddy makes it with marshmallows." Ethan chuckled. "That's your specialty, bug, not mine." Soon, the three of them were seated at the tiny kitchen table. The cracked linoleum floor creaked under their chairs, and the overhead light flickered once before settling into a dim glow. Maya cupped the warm mug in her hands as though she hadn't felt heat in days. When she took a sip, her eyes closed briefly, and Ethan realized just how much she must have needed this. "You live here alone?" she asked cautiously. "Just me and Lily," Ethan said, glancing at his daughter, who was already showing Maya her crayon drawings. "It's not much, but we manage." Maya smiled faintly, her eyes softening as Lily chattered. For the first time since he'd seen her on the porch, she looked less guarded, less ready to bolt. Over the next few days, Ethan noticed how naturally Maya fit into their routine. She insisted on helping with chores, washing dishes, and sweeping floors. She even took it upon herself to organize the cluttered bookshelf in the living room. "Really, you don't have to do all this," Ethan told her one evening as she folded laundry at the kitchen table. "I want to," she replied without looking up. "You gave me a place when you didn't have to. This is the least I can do." Lily adored her new friend. "Maya helps me with math," she boasted one night when Ethan came home tired from work. "She says I'm super smart." Ethan raised his brows. "You always were," he teased, but he sent Maya a grateful look. He hadn't had the energy to sit down and tutor Lily properly in weeks, and seeing his daughter so proud made his chest ache in the best way. But Ethan also noticed something else. Maya never talked about her own family. She avoided questions about where she came from or why she had nowhere to go. There was a sadness in her eyes that didn't match her age, and though she laughed easily with Lily, Ethan caught her staring at the window sometimes, lost in thought. What he didn't know was that Maya wasn't just any broke college student. She was Maya Grant, daughter of Richard Grant, the millionaire real estate mogul who owned half the city's tallest buildings. Maya had walked away from that world. She'd grown up in a mansion with servants, designer clothes, and a father who measured affection in gifts rather than words. After years of suffocating under expectations, she'd snapped, arguing with her father until she left with nothing but a backpack and determination. She wanted to know what it was like to live without a safety net, to taste freedom even if it came with hunger and cold nights. And here, in Ethan's humble home, she felt something she had never known in her own: warmth. Every evening she stayed, she grew more attached. To Lily's innocence, to Ethan's quiet strength, to the unpolished but genuine love that filled the little house. She dreaded the day she would have to leave, or worse, the day they discovered who she truly was. Because secrets like hers never stayed hidden forever. The weeks that followed blurred into something Ethan hadn't experienced in years: peace. Maya's presence in the house was like sunlight streaming into a room that had long been dark. She laughed with Lily as they baked cookies, stayed up late helping with school projects, and filled the silence with gentle humming while she folded laundry. Ethan found himself smiling more often, even humming along to the radio at work. The heaviness he'd carried since Emma's death seemed to ease, little by little. But beneath the warmth, Ethan sometimes caught shadows crossing Maya's face. A flicker in her eyes when Lily asked about her family. A stiffness in her voice whenever someone mentioned the wealthy side of town. She was hiding something, and though Ethan's instincts told him to ask, his heart whispered that she'd tell him when she was ready. One Saturday afternoon, Ethan was fixing Mr. Callahan's fence down the street, a side job for a little extra cash. Sweat rolled down his temple as he hammered the boards into place, but he didn't mind. The extra money meant Lily could have new shoes before winter. From the corner of his eye, he saw a sleek black car turn onto the narrow street. It glided up the road like a predator among pigeons, gleaming under the sun. The neighbors began to peek from their windows, curiosity sparking. The car stopped in front of Ethan's house. The door opened, and out stepped a tall man in a tailored suit, his posture rigid, his presence commanding. His silver hair was combed back neatly, his shoes polished to a mirror shine. Everything about him screamed wealth and power, and danger. Maya. His voice cut through the quiet street like a blade. Ethan froze mid-swing of the hammer. His heart stuttered. Maya. From the house, the door opened, and Maya stepped onto the porch. Her face went pale. She clutched the railing like it was the only thing keeping her standing. "Dad," she whispered. Ethan's stomach dropped. "Dad." The man's eyes were hard as steel. "Do you have any idea what you've put us through? Disappearing without a word. The press has been relentless. Your mother hasn't slept in weeks, and your future," his words choked with fury. "You threw it all away." Ethan's hammer slipped from his hand, landing in the dirt. Richard Grant. He recognized him now. The man whose face often graced business magazines. The man who owned half the city. A millionaire. A king in his own right. And Maya, his daughter. Ethan's chest tightened as realization sank in. All this time, he'd thought she was a broke college student. She wasn't just from a different world, she was from another galaxy. Richard finally noticed him. His sharp eyes raked over Ethan's sweat-stained shirt, calloused hands, and worn boots. His lips curled with disdain. "And who exactly are you?" Ethan straightened, his voice even. "Just a man who gave your daughter a place to stay when she had nowhere else." Richard's brow arched. "And I'm expected to believe you did it out of charity." He pulled a sleek checkbook from his pocket, flipping it open with practiced ease. "Name your price. You'll be compensated for your hospitality." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I don't want your money." "Everyone wants money," Richard snapped. "Not me." Ethan's voice was steady now, though his heart pounded. "I did it because she needed help. That's all." Maya stepped forward, her hands trembling. "Dad, stop. Ethan and Lily, they're family to me now. Don't insult them." Richard's gaze sharpened. "Family. With them." He gestured at the modest house with something like disgust. "You've been living here, in this shack." Maya's chin trembled, but she lifted it stubbornly. "Yes, and it's the happiest I've felt in years." Richard blinked as though she'd slapped him. "Happy? You think this poverty is happiness? Maya's eyes filled with tears. Happiness isn't about money, Dad. It's about love. Do you even know what that feels like anymore? The words cut deep. For a moment, Richard faltered. His hand stilled on the checkbook. The neighbors, who had gathered quietly at their fences, watched with wide eyes. Ethan stood frozen, torn between anger and awe at Maya's courage. Silence stretched until finally Richard exhaled sharply, the lines on his face softening. Maya. His voice was quieter now, almost pleading. I only wanted you safe. I am safe, she whispered, glancing back at Ethan and Lily, who had come outside and slipped her small hand into Maya's. Safer than I ever was in that big, empty house. Something shifted in Richard's expression, pride giving way to something almost vulnerable. He looked at Ethan again, this time not with disdain but curiosity, maybe even respect. If this is what you want, he said slowly, I won't stop you. His jaw tightened as if the words tasted bitter. But remember, you'll always have a home waiting if you change your mind. Maya's tears spilled freely as she nodded. Thank you, Dad. Without another word, Richard turned, climbed back into the car, and disappeared down the street. The hush that followed was almost deafening. That evening, after the shock settled, Ethan sat on the porch steps with Maya. The night air was cool, the sky freckled with stars. Lily was asleep inside, clutching her rabbit, oblivious to the drama that had unfolded. Maya sat beside him, twisting her fingers nervously. Ethan, I'm sorry I didn't tell you about who I am. I didn't want you to see me differently. Everyone always does. But you, her voice broke. You saw me, not my last name. That's why I couldn't tell you. Ethan studied her in the dim light, the vulnerability etched in her features. After a long pause, he spoke. Maya, I don't care who your father is, or how much money your family has. I care about the girl who helps my daughter with her homework. The one who made our little house feel alive again. That's the person I know. Her eyes brimmed with tears. You really mean that? He nodded, his voice steady. I mean it. She leaned her head on his shoulder, her tears wetting his shirt. Thank you, she whispered, her voice raw. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something stir in his chest, something he thought had died with Emma. Hope, maybe even love, and as the crickets sang around them and the stars glowed above, Ethan realized that sometimes the greatest riches weren't measured in money at all. They were found in the kindness of strangers, the laughter of children, and the courage to open your heart again.